Hello there. In this video, I will be building a React app from scratch. And as we can see, I already have my React app running. And I'm gonna get rid of a couple of things that I don't need. First, I'm getting rid of this, everything here, delete. Once I save it, it's blank because I don't need it. I can get rid of this also. I don't need it. It should return something, so I could just say return h2 tag react project. Here it is. Let me bring back the div class. Let me Control Z. Yeah, because it has the styling that keeps it in the middle. So I'll just say h2 my react app. Save it. Good. So that's why I wanted to bring it back, because it already has a CSS that makes it stay in the middle. Now next thing is, this is already grayed out because I'm not using it. So let me get rid of this. Save it. I'm using the CSS for this. That's why I need this here. I don't need this logo. Get rid of it. Yes. I don't need this because I'm not using it for this project. Yeah, this error shows this, and it's an index because I deleted it and I'm not using it. So I will get rid of this, and here, once I get rid of this, it automatically takes the error out of it. So save it. One more thing. So I'm not using this also. I'm just clearing my project to make it clean and neat, having only what I need. What else am I done? I don't need this also, so delete it. I don't need this, delete it. So pretty much I'm left with just what I need here, 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 and here. Good. So I have a task that I will be solving. Let me copy it and paste it over here. So it says using the data set. I have a data set that I'll be using. Create the following components. Item list, card, item list, and item card, header, and nav bar. Okay, so I will be having a mock data set to use, and I'm gonna install the package for the JSON server because I'll be using a db.json file. And the way to do this is I'll open my terminal here. Just create this here and install my JSON server by saying npm install JSON install JSON server and click enter. So it was successful, added 64 packages. Good, good, good. So the next thing I'm going to do is to create a db.json file. I want my db.json file to be outside of here, so I move it to outside of the src component. Good. So let me get in my data. Where is it? copy it. So as you can see, data in db.json has a format. It starts with a curly bracket, this yellow curly bracket, and then in quotes or in strings, items, then colon, an array, then we have the object inside of the array. Here we have 4 objects inside of the array. I'll save it and run another function. And this function is gonna be JSON server, right? It's gotta be unhyphen. JSON server, 2 hyphens, this, and watch db.json. This command basically means I want you to keep track of the changes in db.json, and I click enter. When I click enter, it gives me this URL. As you can see, the last word here, items, match this, right? You can see items here. So this shows me that, okay, this command was successful. And one more thing I'd like to do is to copy it and open it here and see if it matches what I see here. It does. So good. So I would like to close this and open it again just to be sure that it's connected to my db.json. Since I had this open before, I just do not want any errors. So I cancel this, I come here, I open another terminal, and then I say npm start. Yes. Yeah, so compiled successfully. Good. So now let's get to the task we have at hand. So it says using the data set, we've already created our db.json with our mock data. Create the following components: an item list to demonstrate all item cards, an item cards component to demonstrate the normal details of the items, a header component that will have a search component, and a search component or a search functionality, and the last, the navbar to link from the home page and the item list component. So I'm gonna break this down and first start and focus with the first 3. Once we're done with the first 3, we will do the number 4. So first things first, let's create all of those 3 components. Come here. The first component is item list.js. In here, I'm going to use one of my favorite shortcuts, which is RFCE. Click enter. Good. Next component is item cards. So item cards.js. Come over here, click, type in RFCE, save it, and create a header. Header component, come here, RFCE, click enter, it gives me that, save, good. So I've done that. The next thing is item list would be the parent component of item cards. So item list and item and header would be the child or children components of app. So I'm gonna come here, put in import item. First, I need to import that from here. I need to import item list from item lister.js. And one more thing that's missing here is import React from React. Okay. And also import one more thing, import my header component. Header, yep. And of course, call it inside of here, header. Great, so we can see it's displaying on the page successfully. What we have in item list is item list, good. And what we have in header is header, good. Great. Now, the next step that we want to do is, of course, get our data into this page. We're going to use a hook called useState. So I'm going to import useState. And we're also going to use another hook called useEffect. So let me start with state. State, what useState does, state is a hook. It basically helps the website or your web page to be dynamic. It's able to change, the state of your variable as it's being called upon. Now, let me explain better. So for example, I'm setting up a state here, and I have my items variable, and I have my setter function, set items. So this setter function is what I will call anytime I want to change the value of the variable called item. And says useState would be an empty array, because I'm going to change this empty array to be what is in here. Where's my db.json? Here. Now follow me. Here, I'm going to now use useEffect. UseEffect is also a hook in React. Basically, it says I want my app component to have a side effect. The side effect it's called a side effect because it's not the main effect. The main effect of a React component is to take in props as an argument and return JSX, which is this. Right, so anything occurring outside of this is basically going to be called a side effect. And this is how you use it. UseEffect, parentheses, a callback function, right? Here, let's go back. What I do that with my cursor, go back, yeah. So a callback function, a curly bracket, and this. This is called a dependency. This dependency says that I want my useEffect to run only the first time my app component renders. Only the first time my entire app component renders, just the first time. If there was no dependency, it means I want my use effect to run every time my app runs. Anytime it updates, keep running my use effect. And if it had a dependency that had a variable inside of it, it says I want it to run every time or anytime the variable changes. Right? So we have no dependency array. This is it, no dependency array. We have an empty dependency, and of course we have a variable dependency. But for the purposes of this project, I am using an empty dependency array because I want my use effect to run only the first time my app runs. Okay, so I'm gonna use fetch now. Click enter, fetch, and come here and copy this URL that that has the data I want to use, and put in my code, paste this, and call.then on it, and say a callback function R. I want to extract the JSON format of my data, and another then callback function. I just put in items. I could put it any name, but I just want to put use item and say set. Now I'm calling my set function use state. Set items to be the value of items. I could call this bananas. It really doesn't matter. And say set items to the value of bananas. But of course I wouldn't call it that. I'll call it items. So you can call it any name. Good. And now one more thing to be sure that we were able to fetch or get a request successfully. I'm gonna console.log items. Save it, come here, open my console, and here it is. Good, so we were able to fetch our data successfully. Good, good. Now, let's begin to set up each component. Let's start with the header that has the search component. Come here, because it's a search component, it's gonna have an input, a control form. So form input, save it. Already see the input here, and of course the type would be text. Now, value. At this point, I would need state to set this. And that means I would have to go back to app. Because I'm going to go back to app and set another state. So this state, now you would understand why I said I had to come back to this component. I have to come back to this component because it has the data through which I want to be searching through, So I'll create another app and call it search term. Let me call it search term and say set search term, my setter function to use to change my variable, and use state. I'll set it to an empty string. So now let me replace this console.log and create another space and say, I'm creating a variable and call it filter items. I hope you're tracking with me. So I'm gonna call filter on the items. Say items dot filter. Call that function filter. What I wanted to do is if item, I want to search it by the name of the item. So let's go ahead. Say if item dot name. Now I'm gonna say to lowercase because I want it to be case insensitive. So even if I search with a uppercase, it's still gonna show this if I'm searching for item 1 or item 2. So let's go to app. So if item dot name to lowercase dot includes my search term, includes search term, plus do the same thing, lowercase. Now I want you to filter the item that includes the search term, right? Okay, so one more thing that I have to do, I'll have to pass a couple of things to my header component. The first thing I'd have to do is to pass both search term and set search term to the header component. Come here and say search term. I'll pass this down to item list, but let's take it one step at a time. So search term would be search term. And then space, I also want to pass sets search term. Set to search term. So this, I could name it anything, like yes, and that would be the value when I come over to header. But this is what really matters, right? It's best practice to name it with names that you can identify it with and not be confused. So I'll come over here to header and receive what I passed into it from app, and I passed in search term and right, and I also passed set search term. Okay, great. Now I can now set the value to search term. And one more thing is unchange my event listener. So as the user types, I want you to call this function to handle what to do. So I call it handle change. Come back here, work on my function, call it handle change e dot target. Let me console the log to see if it works. E dot target dot value. Save it, come here, save, refresh it. Why is it loading? This is weird. Cancel. Yeah. This is weird. I don't know why it's loading. Let's see if happy. Yeah, it's loading. Give me a second. This is weird. This is weird because but this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna stop this. Control C, stop it. Yes, cancel it and open it again. NPM start. Yes. Good. Inspect. Okay. So now let me console the log into this and see if it, yes, it does. Good. So it's not showing here because I set the value to state and state is currently empty. So I would say set search term, save it, take this away, save it, refresh it, and see that happen. Yeah, we can now see what I'm typing. Good, good. Okay, now we need to set up item list. What we're going to do is to pass item list to pass filter item list. So I'll just call it filter items. You could call it items. I'll just call it filtered items. And save it. Come to item list over here. Receive it by destructuring. I called it filtered items. And right, yeah. Then, now remember, item cards would display the normal details of item lists, which makes it the child component of item list. So I'll come over here and instead of this, I'm gonna call in item card component. And this slanted arrow, and of course, come here and pass it down to item cards, save it, and then move to item cards where I display the normal details. So item cards, I want to display, let me leave the div and say, oh yeah, I need to receive it here by destructuring filtered items. So come here and say, I want the item. So I have three details to display. I have the name, I have the description, and the price. So I could put the name in a H4 tag and say, but before I do that, I want to come over here and say, I want to map through it. So I'll say constant display items and say filtered items dot map. Okay, you know what? Let me do this inside of here. So let me move this and say curly bracket filtered items dot map and just call it item. And move this H4 over inside. So for each item, I want you to display item.name in H1 tag I also want you to display the description, if you remember, the description and the price. So let's go back to item cards. I also want you to display the description in a P tag and say item dot description. Okay, so yeah, instead of it shows this red wiggly line because I am displaying multiple elements and I do not have the div inside of it. So what I could do is to put this, I can leave this div or just leave it as a React fragment, empty, and come over here to say div, cut this, like enter, put it here. So now it's no longer angry. The lines are off. The wiggly lines are out. Come over here and say maybe also in a P tag and just say item dot price. Is everything okay? Let's see. Save. Let's start. Let's say item. Okay. Thing I think I'm missing is return. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. First, okay, there are a couple of things I want to address, which let me start with this. So let's go back to item parts. It says each child in a list should have a unique key property. Come here and say for each child, give it a key of, we have an ID here, right? Yes. So come back to item cards and say the key should be item.id. Save it, come back here, refresh it, the error is gone. And the second thing I want to do is to get this search button here. I don't want it to be under that. So I'm gonna move item list below and save it, and here it is. And now let me search for item 2. Here, let me delete it and search for item 3. Here it is. And just to be sure, item 1. And here it is. Okay, so to the next. So we've gotten all of this working. So now to the next one, which is the nav bar. But before the nav bar, what if I want to be able to search for each item, not just based on name? I want to have a list of options, such as I want to be able to search for it by the name, by the description, and by the price. So let's do that and see what that looks like. Okay, so just a quick one. Let me get, we don't even need this fragment in front of the filter, this thing, so I can get rid of this. Where it's needed is, so this, purple, yellow, blue, div. So where is, I'm missing something. You know what? Let's just leave it at that. I wanted to correct. Basically, the point is, because for the sake of time and for the sake of this video, I was trying to say that you don't need this and you don't need this. It's not a must per se, but it's a matter of choice, right? Yeah, so for some reason, it doesn't want me to get rid of this, and I don't want to bore you by trying to debug where I got that wrong. So now I was talking about making this search dynamic. First thing I'm gonna do is set a state. That's first thing I do before I go to header to create the options. So const, I'll say category. I'll name it category and say set category. New state, set it to name. I'm setting the category, the default to name. Of course, we can always change it with set category. So another thing I will do is to, of course, pass this down to header and say category should be category. Set category should be set category. Save it and make this wider. Now we'll go to header and accept it via destructuring. So I called it category and I called it set category. Okay. Category net impact log. Set category. Okay. Now I come over here and I say select. Or let me put it in, it should be inside of the form. Say select. Inside of the select, I want 3 options. So let me copy the 3 of them. Let me copy and paste 3 times rather. Option, option, option. So the first option, I want to call it name because we have 3 name, description, price. So the first option, call it name. The second option, call it description. The third drop down option is price. Save. Save it now. The next thing, okay, it's not refreshing. Yeah, I'm sorry about this. My laptop is, so I'm just gonna cancel this and restart it again. Control C to stop it, close it, and open it again. Start. Yes. Good. Because as I included this, I was obviously expecting to see this 3. So yeah, we have name, description, and we got price. Good. So now we need to do a couple of things. I want the select value to be state, the state, and I'm basically doing this that I did here and repeating it here. Say unchange the event listener to, let's say, handle category. Come here, create a function, and put some space, called handle category. Could you say, let's check if it's working. Say console.log event.target.value. Save it, compile successfully, and close this. And then, yeah, okay, it works pretty good. Next thing I want to do is to set it, the state, to change it, to set category. Good. Now, one last thing. Change this to be dynamic. So, like this, put in a square bracket and say category. Category. So whatever the category is, I want to be able to search it. So now it's a name. I want to search it based on name. I'll say item 1. The filters item 1. Now delete it. Now I want to search by description. So lowercase is not defined. Okay. That means, okay. Cannot read properties. App.js 8.10.1. 8.10. Okay, let me check my header. And by the way, it's an implicit return. I don't need to put in return. Save it. Come back here. Oh, either target dot value, and I didn't put a value. My bad. So put the value to be the name. Put the value to be the description. Put the value. So the value basically has to match this. Okay, it's not in caps lock. So I have to not put it in caps lock because it has to match this. So go back here, here, header, change it to a small case. Value price. It should work now. So refresh it. Okay. Return has to be either here or where I'm passing it to an item list, item card. So you know what? Put in return needed. Yeah. Yep. Return was needed. So refresh. Now let's search based on name and the others, price and description. Item 1 works well. Delete. Let's search based on description. Let's see what are the description. Description doesn't seem to show here. What did I do? Yeah, I didn't spell description right. So save it. You see description. Let me put it in maybe in bold so it shows better. But don't worry. Let's not focus too much on the aesthetics. But this is the description, and I want to search for it based on description. The item, let's say item 3 description. Okay, good, works well. So now I want to search based on price. Say I want $200. Cool. I want $1.25, and here it is. So good. Now, so the last task to do is in the navbar to create a component called a navbar to link from homepage and item list. We already have an item list, but we do not have a home page component. We have this component. So let's create a home page component. Home page.js. Use one of my favorite shortcuts commands. Enter. Good. So come back here. So the nav bar will link from the home page and the item list. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is come over to my index.js and import something called, and say import browser router from React DOM. Some you can use it as this, or some can say we import browser router as router. Any one works. So I'll come here and wrap it around app. Say router. Come here. Click app. Cut it. Paste it here. Let's see better. Let me do it this way. Send it. So if export browser router imported as router was not found. Oh yeah, I have to it's router, not React router, not React DOM, but React hyphen router DOM. Save it and see if it goes. Okay, it's not React router DOM, it's React router DOM. Yeah, import React router DOM as. Give me a second. I need to install the dependency. That's the install React router DOM. Just the way we install the JSON server. So I'll come back here, create another terminal, and say npm install React router. I have to install it before using it. So once I did that, the error goes away. Yes. So now that I have this, so Browser React is a library in React that allows for client-side routing amongst multiple pages without necessarily navigating to different pages. So this is the first step. And the next step is a navbar component. Let's create that here. Navbar.js IFCE. Good. So over here, I want to import nav link because I'm going to be using it. And next is I'm going to enter this and say nav link So what does navlink do? First, navlink helps with the URL for each component. It helps with navigating between all of them, between each of them that I'm gonna put in here. So I want to navigate between I want to be able to navigate between homepage and item list. So I'm gonna say to I wanna so this forward slash just this would mean home, and I'm gonna call it com home. That's just it. Okay. Oh, I see. I meant to not have this short one. I should have this so that I can put home right inside of it and say two, right? And create another one, nav link that I needed for homepage and item list. So this is what would be displayed here on the page. So two item list. I just got it, item list. Okay, so follow me on this one. I could, this doesn't even matter if I put it in caps lock or not. Just put this and save it. You know what? For the sake of, because when you see this on the page, you see it on small caps. So save it. Here, it seems like nothing happens now. I'll come back to app. So here in app, I'm gonna import some specific things that I'll use. Basically, I'm gonna be using the routes and the routes with the plural and routes with the singular. So I'll come, let me come on again and say import route and routes from React router. This is switch. This used to be switch instead of route switch in version 5, but this is version 6. So it's now route. So after that, I'm gonna come here and of course put in this. I'm yet to even import this. So let me do that now. So it shows nav bar. Save it. Nav bar is not defined because I did not import it. Let me import it here. Say import nav bar. Yeah. Save, so the arrow goes away and you can already see home items. So one more thing I have to do is under, I want to be able to, switch between my home page and my, what do you call it now? My home page and my item list. So let me make this a bit wider. So now, because it's home page and item list, I will create another space and route. Now for route, say route. Put routes, put in this item list, take it up, put in some space so it shows it's inside. and homepage. So let me bring in homepage, tab, homepage. Save it. Now, that's not all yet. Homepage not around components yet because this is the mother cover. I need to do one more thing, which is route, the plural of route. I could decide to use this or just the self-closing. Let me use this preferably. So for this, I'm gonna take this inside, paste it inside. Okay. Yeah, so I'm gonna do a couple of things. Now, the first thing that I need to do is to tell it the path. Now, the path here is gonna be the path I gave to homepage in the navbar, which is just this /. And then, so give it this slash. One more thing, I would put element, not element, be this a curly space, put in a curly bracket, and take this home page, and paste it inside of element. Save, still gonna show error because I haven't done this. The next is to repeat same for this and do the same and say route. Come back here, say path. What was the path that I gave to item list and navbar item list? Say item list and say element. Basically repeat what I did here. Put in a curly bracket. Then copy this and paste it inside of this and clear the space, save, and here it is. Items, just create a space so there's a space in between home and items. So in the home page, I could just make it say, welcome. Change this to maybe H2, the small caps, H2. So refresh everything. Say, welcome. This is my home page. Now click on my items page. Items, where I can search item 1 and do all of those things that I want to do. And this is the end of this long video. Of course, if it were to be a more complicated app or project, do the styling and just adjust one or two things. Basically, we got it working. We achieved the aim and did everything we were to do. And thank you for sticking with me on this video and on my debugging and everything. And let me know if you have any questions or additions and anything. Thank you very much.